Hello and welcome to another edition of Blind Eye Live. I'm your host, Blind Eye himself, Hunter King, owner proprietor of Blind Eye Media. And today, the big thing going around. I didn't talk about this Tuesday, but it's going to take up probably the biggest portion of the show. Is talking about the Deshaun Watson situation. Not that there is necessarily an official update, which I'm going to check the headlines here in a bit as well. We will get into some other sports news. Deshaun Watson, there has been some reporting of what's going on behind the scenes right now. And we're going to get into that because I have opinions. I have opinions. As well, the NBA playoff race is coming down to the end. We've got just a handful of games left. So we'll check in on those standings. And maybe I'll go through like the biggest hole that I think exists on every team's roster. Although I might do that tomorrow. That might be for Friday's show. But yeah. So I guess we'll just dive right into the Deshaun Watson thing. To start with, just get that out of the way, because who knows how long I'm going to take on this. So I believe the first reports I saw, it was from the Rich Eisen show, and he said that people he had spoken to, basically word is that Deshaun Watson is trying to settle all of these civil cases that have been brought against him. Which, to a degree, I could kind of understand trying to find some kind of settlement in a criminal court. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it makes more sense in the civil court. But I've seen a lot of bad information and bad takes on this floating around. And some people might consider mine bad. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a legal expert. So I'm not giving like legal analysis when I say this. This is from the perspective of a fan who has asked some questions of lawyers, who has looked at all of these cases. To me, it seems like, and based off of some of the filings from his legal team, it seems like they have some pretty good defenses for some of these. So I don't understand why they would settle, period, for some of these. And these aren't criminal proceedings, so there's no criminal time involved. But this leaves me with some questions and leaves the Texans and other NFL teams with a conundrum of what to do here. And I've seen this in some YouTube comment sections. There are a lot of people who are very much, if he settles these suits, I mean, basically what we're getting here is no one knows whether he's guilty or not. And if anything, for anyone who like me has been leaning towards, it's like, because of who he is and his age, this isn't like Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was never like good looking. He's been an old man for a while. It's not, I could buy that Bill Cosby did what he did. Deshaun Watson is a rich, young, good-looking dude who is younger than I am. Like, this dude's like what? 26? 25? Like, I mean, he's in my age range, but like, this guy, like, I'm sure women are throwing themselves at him. So, now, I'm not saying the guy's innocent either of anything, because we don't know. But this man is settling these cases. Does that make him guilty? No. It also doesn't absolve him of wrongdoing either. This is meant to obfuscate and just this throws a blanket. This is like throwing a giant bookcase in front of a wall that has been potentially been drawn all over. That's what this is. To me, it says maybe he's not that bad because these people are settling, but maybe this guy isn't absent of guilt, like absent of something, or absent of doing something, absent of wrongdoing. That's the word. Which that also depends on your own moral philosophies too. Because as far as I'm concerned, if he was, I mean, as a Christian, I think most people would know where I lie on that, or when it comes to like how men are supposed to go about acting. But anyway, I just think I think him settling all of these cases makes him look worse than fighting these cases. Because to me, it seems like maybe you're thinking it's going to save you money in the long run. Maybe you think it's going to fix your problem. I'm sorry, it's 2021. I don't know if you've seen the past few years of how these things go. All this is going to do, if you're innocent or not, to me, this just will encourage more people to come out. Because there are people out there. There was at least one person that we know has dropped a lawsuit. There's another person who alleges that had similar instances but decided not to join this lawsuit because she was conflicted about it. Which, right there, you're opening yourself up. Oh, well, he settled these. Well, now I can get mine. So, I mean, there is that. And I'm not saying, like, if he did wrong, I want him to have consequences. But it's like, anyway, these are civil cases, not criminal. All this is money. This is all about money. In terms of damages. If real damages occurred, the only thing they're getting out of this is money. They're not taking a predator off the streets. They're not. And for this guy, well, it's not like this guy, Deshaun Watson, doesn't have a ton of money and doesn't have more money coming in. He's going to have a lot more money coming in. This whole process has just been strange to me. Because I'm hearing these people talk about what happened to them and, holding this person accountable, or holding Watson accountable, making sure this doesn't happen again. How is you getting paid $100,000 or whatever you settle for? How is you getting paid six figures, stopping him from going out and doing this again just because he got put on blast this time? Maybe next time he does, or if he's really a sick, twisted individual or whatever, maybe he goes to further lengths to make sure that this doesn't happen again. He's not getting put behind bars. And this whole process is added, or has, for people who are defending Watson, doing this in civil courts and going about it this way, it's not going to change their minds. I don't know. It's just, because in a vacuum, the settlements would be fine. Okay, these people say they've been wronged. This is what they believe is justice for them. That's cool. And in that regard, totally fine. The issue is this goes beyond the scope of them, because This guy represents an organization. An organization is paying him millions of dollars to represent their organization, that city, those fans. Now, people who really want to just be business, like, well, none of that. It's like, at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. The fans' opinions really shouldn't be affected by this, or they should ignore it. And it's like, no. It's like, this isn't a parking ticket. This isn't. He got into a fight at a nightclub with some other drunk, or like he was being a drunken idiot and got into a fight with another drunken idiot. That's not what this is. Like, this is something far more serious. That I would not want, and this is where I'm going to get into my opinion on this. I think it's bad that he's settling these lawsuits and not fighting. Because to me, if I'm not guilty, I'm not going to let there be any question of my moral character. It's like, if I have done nothing wrong, legitimately done nothing wrong, I want that to be known. I don't want there to be any question of my character, of who I am. I don't want stains on my record that don't belong there. Like, I'm going to fight tooth and nail. That's me. And that's pretty much everyone I know. Now, I'm not in his position. I'm not making the millions of dollars, so who am I to say what he should or shouldn't do? He's got to make that determination for himself. I'm just saying, for me, my character and my integrity means far more than the amount of money I've got in my bank account. And when you're making millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, what's a couple mil, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to your character and your integrity? Unless you are guilty, unless it's going to come out, and part of your defense, you're going to have to say exactly what kind of person you are, and you don't want to. That's what it is to me for settling. You either, maybe you didn't do anything wrong, but maybe you don't want people to know what you were really doing. That's to me, the only motivation. Or maybe to just get it out of the way. But to me, if I'm innocent, if I've done nothing wrong, I'm going to fight as long and as hard as it takes to clear my name, if I have the ability to do so. Or if I did nothing wrong. To me, this smacks of, there's something he doesn't want people to find out. And I don't want that guy leading my team. I don't want that guy being the face of my franchise. I don't want to root for that guy. I'd rather go 0-6. I'd rather my favorite team go 0-16 than have a sexual predator at quarterback. I'd rather go 0-16 and love the players on the team, or maybe complain about the state of the team, but at least have respect for the moral character of players on my team, than have a bad person, or a potential sexual predator, or wife beater, or what have you, as the face of my favorite team. Because to be honest, I mean that's just the honest truth. Like, I'm glad I'm not a Texans fan. I'm glad I'm not a Texans fan. Because as far as I'm concerned, as soon as this went out, like, he'd already asked out of the team. Like, he doesn't want to, or apparently does not want to be there. Then this happens. It's like, well, now if I'm another organization, why am I trading for this headache? You could say whatever you want about or the on-the-field stuff. These guys are playing a game for a living. What they're doing is a privilege. Having, like, the support of a city this is a privilege. a massive privilege. And I don't care how good you are at the game. If you're gonna, it's like if you're running around being a terrible representative of like my city. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, like all these guys. There's not a blemish on their character record. And it's like, and as far as I'm concerned, you look at what happened to Michael Vick. And I'm not defending like the dogfighting or anything or whatever, because he deserved punishment for what happened. Or for what he allowed other people to do. But to me, that was way overboard. And then you have this situation with Watson, and I'm like, what he's being accused of, as far as I'm concerned, potentially, like, if all the stuff was true, way worse than anything Michael Vick did. Way worse. But everyone immediately threw Mike Vick under the bus. Deshaun Watson, we're actually, or should I say the media at the very least, is more focusing on the football implications and are kind of letting all this stuff play out. In a way, I actually agree with and I like. But people are talking about, him playing football in 2021 after settling, and I'm like, if he settles these cases, this guy should be, based on suspensions the NFL has given out for other things, this guy should be out for the year, at least. And to be honest, if he does settle all these cases, I wouldn't, like, if I'm another organization, I wouldn't want this guy around my team. Oh, I'm going to bring, it's like, and I like forgiveness, I like redemption. But to me, settling 20 plus cases is like, you're some kind of you have a serious problem. A serious problem that I don't want anything to do with. I don't want to have anything to do with the image of my organization. And I guarantee you, the Texans are probably wishing right now that as soon as he said his or voiced his displeasure, that they had traded him. And there are some people who are floating, and now we'll get into some of the bad takes, some of the theories going around. There are people who legitimately believe that the Texans organization is involved with these suits because they don't want Watson to go anywhere. That's stupid. It's ignorant and stupid. Do you really think in 2021, or just any time, but 2021, that a team is going to destroy a face of the franchise type player, an elite quarterback, someone who is the most important player to your organization, that they're going to tarnish his reputation? And believe me, I am nowhere near alone in my opinions of not wanting a guy like this around my team. Fans don't want to support that. You are going to drive away fans. You are going... that would be stupid. You don't want this to deal with this as an organization. Because you're harming his trade value. Which, that's the thing, is like, well, teams aren't going to trade for him, like, this is helping them keep him. But yeah, but then there's going to be a large section of your fan base like, don't. It's like, get rid of the guy. Don't let him play. We don't want this guy around. So I think all that nonsense, being a conspiracy on that note, is stupid. There's also a less popular theory, but I've heard this one too. It's the same, but it's Other teams that wanted to trade for him did this, or are helping this. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to, because it would potentially lower the price to get the headache off the Texans, but I'm not going to trade for a headache. Why would I create a bad situation, like, just to get a football player? It's like, I just think that's ignorant. That's even dumber. And then there are people talking about, well, he has to settle. It's the smartest move because a jury's not going to find this guy not guilty. This is a civil court. To my knowledge, there won't be a jury involved in these proceedings. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not a legal expert. But to my knowledge, civil cases typically don't go in front of juries. That's criminal proceedings. Now, if there's a lawyer who wants to hit me up, that's fine. But I had a couple conversations. To my knowledge, these are civil cases. There's not going to be like a civilian jury, like deciding right or wrong in all these on all these things like you would see from like a criminal case. So, and maybe I should look that up, and I might do that after the show, look into that rather than just right now. But this isn't a criminal case. So, which in a civil case, typically there's a little bit of a lower standard of proof required, or that is or necessarily that you have to bring or whatever. But from what I understand, like, judges will be deciding on the merits of these cases, and in which case you don't have to worry about emotion, and you don't have to worry near as much about like media coverage, because the judges are going to ignore most of that. If not, and the good judges will ignore all of it entirely. So, and so far, the movement in these cases have gone in his favor, which to a degree will also help. And maybe it depends on the settlements, because these settlements may also include things that help Watson's public perception, but we don't know. Most settlements involve neither side saying anything further or doing anything about the case, just saying, we've come to agreement on settling our dispute. It doesn't say what that is. It doesn't necessarily mean that anyone... Sometimes it'll involve people retracting comments, but in a lot of cases, it's basically like, we're not going to talk about this ever again. This is over. And the public, the outside world, doesn't matter what you think. This is fine for us. And you don't know what happened. You don't learn what happened. You just have to deal with it and accept that that the parties that felt wronged or feel okay about this compensation, whatever. But to me, the fallout of the potential of him settling all these cases, I wouldn't want that guy representing my team. I wouldn't root for the guy. I'm glad he's not on my Titans. I just, I try to be a pretty forgiving person, but like, to me, if it were me, your football career is over. Now, you could go try and get a regular job, do whatever you want for the rest of your life, but you're not playing for my football team. Like, I mean, that's just you've used, like, because like for all of this, he has used his status and who he is to, for the most part, to get these appointments with most of these people. And then use that to get even more out of it. I just... and I'm kind of the point where, like, everyone who I see kind of defend him or defend this, like, I had a YouTube, I put a YouTube comment on Pat McAfee clip of Rich talking about, or where he was talking about Rich saying that it looks like it's his team is apparently, they're trying to settle all these cases as soon as possible. I said, look, I wouldn't want this guy on my team. I wouldn't want this guy anywhere near my organization if he's settling. He's not fighting to clear his reputation at that point. He's just trying to get this over with. And to me, that's like, I don't have the exact comment words, but like my sentiment is, I don't like this, and I wouldn't want this guy on my team. Someone said, well, he said, you're lost, man. I think he meant your loss. But for me, I don't feel like I'm losing anything. Oh my goodness. A great quarterback for a team that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether they win or lose. Like, it doesn't affect my life. It doesn't affect, like, no one's living or dying because of it. It's not truly affecting living or dying. It's really a meaningless thing. As much money is tied up in it, it means nothing. It's a social benefit or whatever, or it gives us something to watch, entertain ourselves. For me, talk hours about every week because I have probably, well, like many people, maybe I have an unhealthy obsession. But it's, at the end of the day, it's just games. So yeah, I think a guy like Deshaun Watson, and like the situation, if you don't get it's like if your career is done because of that, that's on you. It wouldn't be unfair. And wow, if I lose out on winning a Super Bowl because Watson does go somewhere and some pathetic group of people decide that winning football games means a little more than moral integrity. They can have that Super Bowl. I don't care. Once again, this is if he settles and doesn't fight this out. Or depending on the terms of the settlement, if we learn some things, if people retract statements, I would feel safer about it. But my thing is, at this point, if he settles all these cases, the NFL just should put him on the exempt list or slap him with like a year-long suspension. He's out for this year. Minimum. And also, I believe, because we have the court filings as they are, we have the accusations. If there are settlements, I believe from my reading of the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, the same statute that the Jaguars used to waive the rest of the guaranteed money on Leonard Fournette's rookie deal would apply, and potentially apply even more so to this Watson situation. And the Texans could void his guaranteed money. And as far as I'm concerned at this point, if I'm the Texans, I'd do it. I would do that as quickly as I possibly could if he starts settling cases. Sorry, my phone is blowing up. But yeah, so let's see what time it is. Wait, why am I doing that when I've got my phone right here? Well, we're already 30 minutes in. Okay. So I think that's about all I've got on that. So technically, there's no like legal updates, but this has been reported as being. This has been reported as being a thing. That is what he's trying to do, and we'll see what happens. But to me, I think it's a bad move. Like, once again, like I said, I wouldn't want to be any part of having him on my football team. All right, so let's check some headlines here. What is this? Dortmund versus Red Bull Leipzig. That's probably a good game. All right, let's check some of these headlines. Let me line up my stuff real quick. All right. So, sources. A-Rod Group buying Wolves for $1.5 billion. So it's official. Alex Rodriguez and that ownership group is buying the Minnesota Timberwolves for $1.5 billion. My question is, does that team then stay in Minnesota? Because I'm just saying, Alex Rodriguez started his career with the Seattle Mariners. We're going to look into that story here in a little further. See, lawyer. NFL not respecting women suing. The NFL is not respecting women suing Watson. Okay. Sure. We'll check that out since I was just talking about Watson. Pac-12 hires MGM's what as commissioner? Who cares? The MGM Grand like hotel? What? Is that what that is? NBA creates award in honor of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Wonder what that award's about. Let's see. NCAA call to Knicks women's golf event irks coaches. Well, we'll look into that. I don't know why they'd be canceling an event. All right, let's start at the bottom. St. John's men's basketball coach Mike Anderson gets a 6-year extension through 2026-27 season. The university announced the deal on Thursday after Anderson delivered consecutive winning seasons in his first 2 years. Financial terms were not disclosed. Okay. Well, good for that guy. Okay, so let's start from the top and we'll work our way down. Alex Rodriguez Group to purchase Minnesota Timberwolves for $1.5 billion, sources say. Minnesota Timberwolves owner Glenn Taylor has reached a verbal agreement on a $1.5 billion sale of the team to former baseball star Alex Rodriguez and e-commerce mogul Mark Lowry. I believe that's how you spell his name. Why have I heard his name before? Sources tell ESPN. NBA approval of the deal was still pending, and neither side has publicly announced an agreement. The two sides had entered an exclusive 30-day negotiating window April 10th. Yeah, I remember talking about this then. That expired without an agreement, though the sides continued to negotiate in good faith. Sources previously told ESPN. It's Brian Windhorst. Let's see. Taylor previously said a deal was contingent on Lowry and Rodriguez keeping the team in Minnesota. The team has a lease at the Target Center through 2025, but the buyout is just $50 million. I'm just saying, I'm glad Glenn's trying to keep that team there, but as far as I'm concerned, Minneapolis St. Paul has become one of the worst places in the country to live and exist. And it's not a great market compared to Seattle, which Seattle never should have lost its team in the first place. Lowry and Rodriguez are 50-50 partners. They tried to buy the New York Mets last year, but were beaten out for the Major League Baseball club by hedge fund manager Steve Cohen. Yeah, that was a great idea. Any sale of an NBA club must be approved by the league's Board of Governors, which could come later Thursday. The Timberwolves would become the second NBA franchise sold this season. Gail Miller and her family struck an agreement in October to sell the Utah Jazz to Ryan Smith, a deal that was finalized after Board of Governors approval in December. The 80-year-old Taylor, a lifelong Minnesotan who bought the Timberwolves in 1994 for $88 million to save them from moving to New Orleans, has said he will continue to run the club for 2 more seasons until a handover in 2023. The Minnesota Lynx' WNBA team is included in the sale. You know what? I won't make that joke. They've asked that I would be there for any decisions that would need to be made. I would enjoy that. I love teaching people. Taylor said in an interview last month. These are a couple of very bright guys, and I think it could be helpful to the club, and I think it could be helpful to them so that they feel confident before they take over 100%. Lowry and Rodriguez met with Timberwolves personnel and toured team facilities in Minneapolis last month. Rodriguez, 45, hit 696 home runs over 22 Major League seasons with the New York Yankees, Seattle Mariners, and Texas Rangers. His last season on the field was 2016, marking the end of a marvelous career that was tainted by performance-enhancing drug use he later admitted to. Rodriguez was suspended for the entire 2014 season for violating MLB policy. Lowry became Walmart's e-commerce chief in 2016 when the retail firm bought the Jet.com startup, or bought his Jet.com startup in an attempt to boost online business. Lowry notified Walmart on January 31st of his intent to leave the company. The 49-year-old will continue to serve as a consulting role as their strategic advisor through September. Interesting. Ooh, so Brown's done for the year. That sucks. That headline was or for anyone who's just listening, Jaylen Brown of the Celtics broke his wrist in a fall. He's undergone surgery. He's going to be out for 3 months. So, lawyer, women suing Deshaun Watson not respected in meetings with NFL investigators. What does respected mean? This is coming from Tony Busby, so that probably means they asked them to answer specific questions and didn't just believe every word they said or accept every word they said. Tony Busby, the attorney for the 22 women suing Houston, Texas quarterback Deshaun Watson, expressed concerns to Houston television station or to a Houston television station on Wednesday over how the National Football League is treating his investigation or is handling its investigation. The lawsuits allege sexual assault and inappropriate conduct. Busby, in speaking to Fox 26 in Houston, said some of the women did not feel like they were being respected during their first 3 meetings with NFL investigators, which he told Fox led to him attending the 4 meetings between the league's investigative group and his clients. Who knows? I mean, like, what does that mean, though? And here we go. Here he is playing everything in the media. And this is our problem with our legal system right now. We have too many cases that are... You have lawyers doing everything in the media. And it's always the prosecution or always the accusing people. They're all out in the media trying to destroy people. His character in the media as a means of bullying or of trying to bully the courts into giving them the outcome they want, because that's what this is about. It's about creating this expectation or this belief in a certain viewpoint of proceedings and an expectation of a certain outcome, and if that doesn't happen, the threat of massive backlash. Busby told the television station that 4 of his clients met with the league's lead investigator, Lisa Friel, and he has probably 4 more women who want to meet with the NFL. But he's not sure whether he's going to let them speak with the league's investigators. And see, to me, what that sounds like is, I don't want them to talk to these investigators because they might say something that will hurt our case. In his interview, Busby did not say what the league did to potentially... Well, of course he didn't. Because then that would come under scrutiny. Like direct scrutiny. The less information he gives, the less there is to pick apart of his case and of his clients. Busby, where was it? In the interview, Busby said he did not say what the league, or in the interview, Busby did not say what the league did to potentially make his clients feel disrespected. Watson is being sued by 22 women in civil court and being investigated by the Houston Police Department into claims ranging from inappropriate touching to sexual assault of massage therapists from March 2020 until March 2021, which is the other thing. From what I understand, it's like I've only seen reported that there has been one complaint, and it was made after all these civil suits were filed, like several weeks after. And we're not sure, and because it's a criminal proceeding, which I'm far more okay with people not being labeled, which plaintiff or who filed that complaint. but I'm not aware of there being multiple investigations. The Houston police, because the Houston Police Department has said that Busby and his clients had not, because basically people start going to the Houston police, well, why haven't y'all investigated any of these, or da-da-da-da, because no one has filed any complaints, no one has asked us to investigate anything. No one had ever notified us of there being any potential issues. The allegations are very concerning, and the league immediately began investigating the matter under the NFL's personal conduct policy. NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy said in an email to ESPN on Thursday, the investigation includes gathering information, throughout her decades-long career as the chief of the sex crime unit in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and more recently as the NFL's special counsel for investigations for the last 6 years, Lisa Friel has earned a stellar reputation as a consummate professional who conducts investigations and interviews with compassion and fairness in an effort to determine the truth. And that's the other thing. Busby, not only is Busby going to defame the character of Watson, he is attacking the NFL's investigators' integrity, even though the NFL, it's like, and as it's done in the past, seems to want to find the truth, whether they do or not. But this situation in itself is, I can't remember another NFL player, active NFL player. I don't know if anyone's been accused of anything this serious before. Because to me, this goes beyond just your typical domestic violence thing, which is terrible. But, those situations have been terrible. But to be honest, this to me is a hair further. And considering the investigator for the NFL, let me read that title she had with, let's see. Her decades-long career as the chief of the sex crimes unit in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. To me, I feel like this woman probably had that position because she was good at what she did and has a high level of integrity. So if Busby's questioning her handling of these things, I'm going to question him first. Busby also told Fox that 8 to 10 of his clients have met with the Houston Police Department. So now we're up to, now he's not even giving an exact number, 8 to 10. And he was pleased with how the Houston Police Department has worked with his clients. In March, Busby had publicly said he wasn't comfortable with his clients going to the Houston police, which that's interesting. I wonder why you wouldn't feel comfortable with them going to Houston police. The only reason I would think is because you were worried that the police were going to, or you're worried that your clients going to the police would hurt their case. That's the only thing I could think of. I mean, seriously, that's the only reason I could think of, that a lawyer would not want his client talking to the police. After a complainant went to the Houston Police Department, however, an investigation into Watson was opened. On Thursday, a Houston Police Department spokesperson said it remains an ongoing investigation into allegations against Watson, but would not say how many women have spoken with police, and that's fine. It's like the police shouldn't be divulging all or the information or tons of information about criminal cases and people seeking potential criminal damages. Criminal cases, to me, deserve far more protection than civil ones. Busby also told Fox there are no plans to settle the case between Watson and the women suing him. Well, of course he's going to say that. Who cares what Tom Brady's dad thinks about the Bucs and Patriots playing? All right, let's see. So, off of the Watson stuff again. NBA creates Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's social... I knew this is what it was. Okay. Whatever. Baltimore Ravens sign Dante Silencho, high school teammate of QB Lamar Jackson. Wide receiver Dante Silencho, that's what I'm believing that is, one of 9 undrafted rookies signed by the Ravens on Thursday, was Jackson's favorite target when they played at Boynton Beach Community High School in Florida. Silencho caught 10 touchdown passes in 2 seasons with Jackson. Silencho totaled 59 catches in 3 seasons at Graceland University, an NAIA school in Iowa, and is considered a long shot to make the Ravens. Baltimore selected 2 receivers in this year's draft. First rounder Rashad Bateman included and added Sammy Watson in free agency. Sammy Watkins. The Ravens are doing and saying all the right things lately as they pursue a lucrative extension with Jackson. Let's see. This isn't the first time the Ravens have reunited Jackson with one of his former wide receivers. In 2019, the Ravens signed Jalen Smith, Jackson's top target at Louisville, as an undrafted rookie. Smith was cut before the regular season that year. Yeah. Coaches still questioning controversial decision to cancel NCAA Women's Golf Regional. Well, I wonder where it was held. When the NCAA committee decided, oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm getting tired of hearing my phone buzz. When the NCAA committee decided to cancel the women's golf regional tournament in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Wednesday, it left participating coaches and players perplexed as to how the decision was made. Here's the thing. You could say the coaches are still questioning. Don't care about the coaches. The players. If the players are questioning it, that's what's important because this is their life. Yes, the coaches, obviously, it's their life. But to me, it's about the players. The University Club golf course had taken on 7 inches of rain over 3 days. Yeah, which there was a lot of rain that came through Louisiana. Now, if this is a weather thing and had standing water on select holes and bunkers throughout the course, NCAA committee representatives Brad Hurlburt, that's a name, declared the course was playable, but not up to a championship level, which left coaches asking what exactly that meant. Well, to me, it seems kind of obvious. It's like, it's playable, but do you really want it's not great if you're wanting the best possible level of competition. I've never seen that. I've played pro golf. I've played NCAA regionals as a player. I've coached it. I've played in the the US Amateur, and I've never seen this. Sam Houston, women's golf coach, Brandy Kieschmick said, I have never seen that name before. It was the committee and the rules official, and I don't know why they came to that conclusion, but it's mind-boggling. Why is it mind-boggling? I get you played all these places and it's mind-boggling. Why? Is she going to say, no, we're going to move on to someone else? Miami coach Patty Rizzo said Thursday during an interview with SportsCenter that she didn't like seeing all the girls so stressed out. Okay, yeah. I don't care what you like, but it's supposed to be a memorable, exciting experience, said Rizzo. That added that players were crying and confused by the decision. It's a really sad situation. Yeah, it does suck. I mean, I haven't seen the course. I haven't looked at it. I'm not a golfer either. But I do know the weather that the region down here got. I'm a few hours from Baton Rouge, but I believe they got more rain than we did. And Tuesday night, I was part of an event where towards the end of it, we had rain blowing sideways into the pavilion that the amphitheater we were at was under, and I got soaked. Which isn't the worst thing, but it came a flash flood. We had multiple inches of water pulling up at the foot of the stage, huge area. My sister, walking out to the parking lot, had to take her shoes off and roll up her pants because she was going through shin deep water, 6-inch deep water in places, 6+ inches. So I don't know. So I'm not saying that there's water that deep on the course for the event today, but I just know that was kind of weather that was in this region Tuesday, and I'm a few hours to the southwest of there, here in Beaumont, Texas. The teams had a practice round Sunday with course conditions that were dry. Rain came down Monday morning, which was scheduled to be the first day of the tournament, and play was called for the day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Yeah. Okay. Now, maybe they're canceling it. Maybe they will move the tournament. We'll keep reading. According to Kieschmick, the sun was out Monday from noon on, and there was a full 8 hours of sunshine that could have allowed play later in the day. That option wasn't discussed, however, and Kieschmick did not witness any maintenance crew attempting to get the golf course safe to play or ready for play. A similar scenario played out Tuesday, but the teams were allowed to practice on the course later that day. I walked a little bit of the course. It was playable. The water had receded a little bit. There was maybe one hole that we'd have to move from a par 4 to a par 3. Kieschmick said. A few of the coaches mid-afternoon, went to the committee with questions and said, what can we do to play? We'll do whatever we have to do. Which, I mean, my thing is, if they were willing to play the holes, maybe they should have been allowed. Let's continue. The coaches were told the bunkers on the course were a concern, with standing water making them unplayable. Which, okay. Bunkers are a part of the course. It'd be kind of weird to have out-of-bounds zones just all over the place. The rules official did have the option to make the unplayable bunkers as such, which would give the players relief if their ball entered the marked area. I specifically asked the head rules official why we can't play. What do we have to do? Kieschmick said. The answer was that we don't think you get the right champion if we don't play the bunkers. I said, well, you're well within your rights to make those or to make those ground under repair. That's truly your opinion. You don't know if that determines the right champion or not. That's an opinion. What? I don't know what make those ground under repair means. Approximately 12 coaches from the participating teams went to the same committee Tuesday to get some questions answered. The objective was to determine whether there was a way to resume golf and a way to get the tournament by the Thursday deadline. Part of what confused the coaches was that the bunkers and standing water were represented as the big issue, but they did not see an attempt to clear the water or repair the course. According to Kieschmick and another source, there were no pumps on site to pump the water off the course. Okay, well, if they couldn't get pumps, they might not have been able. It's like, you would think the place would likely, if that was an issue that they had fairly often, which you would think would be a thing down here. I know nothing of golf. So if they're saying that there usually would have been pumps, there should have been a way to do that, that's great. Or I mean, then that should have happened, and this is, a crock of crap. But if they don't have that kind of stuff on site, and it's not usual to have that kind of stuff on site, and they weren't able to get any from wherever they would, because maybe they were needed elsewhere, then that would be understandable. I don't know a ton about golf. This is just kind of interesting because this has to do with like an NCAA championship or whatever. A great coach said, if bunkers are the problem and you're doing nothing about the bunkers, we ought to leave right now, Kieschmick said. That was on Tuesday. So, is that like a former coach this person's referencing? Is that one of the coaches who's there but they're not being named? That's weird context. They didn't want to take the bunkers out, but this happens all the time, and we can do this. When bunkers are the problem and nothing is being done, that's really hard to swallow. It was bizarre. On Wednesday morning, the teams were delayed from their morning start, with it pushed back to 10 a.m. and then to 11 a.m. without communication from the committee. Well, I know what kind of weather went through here Tuesday night and was heading in that direction. Klishmick and a few other coaches went to the clubhouse to try to talk to the committee, but could not gain access to the members and didn't have communication with them until the final decision was announced to end the tournament later Wednesday. He had reached out to the NCAA on Tuesday night to ask what could be done, sent a text on Wednesday morning asking what was going to happen without answer, and eventually, along with the players, heard the decision from Hurlburt. The NCAA released a statement Wednesday saying that the committee regretted that the regional could not be conducted and that because play could not take place on Wednesday, advancement would be determined by regional seeding. Now that's crappy. And see, that I get, or by original seeding. That meant the top 6 teams would advance, host team LSU, Ole Miss, Baylor, Oregon, Maryland, and Alabama. The top 3 individuals not on an advancing team would also go to national championships, which was Houston's Karen Fredgard, Miami's Natalia Guseva, and Sam Houston's Hannah Alberto. Normally, tournaments are doing whatever they can to play golf. Whatever they can. Kishmick said. The vibe was, once we got the weather, it was everything we can do not to play. It's not ideal to get 18 holes in, but it's better than not playing. That was the shocker. The players could be heard yelling and some crying as the announcement was made that the tournament was canceled. For one, their seasons are over, but they're left with questions about what could have been done or what could have been or what could have been done differently. When reached for comment, the NCAA said it has no further comment on the matter. Of course not. This doesn't need to go away because there are lives, emotions, feelings, hard work, and hopes these kids have, Kishmick said. See, and this is me not knowing a ton about golf, but I'm totally with them. It's like if people were willing to play it the way it was, you should have let them play it. Like, holy crap. I feel bad for the kids. I mean, let them play. The president of entertainment and sports for MGM Resorts International has been hired as the new commissioner of the Pac-12. Oh, what? What? So they've moved on from Larry Scott as commissioner. That's interesting. With a year left on his contract, too. Scott was hired as commissioner of what was then the Pac-10 in July 2009, after previously serving as chairman and CEO of the Women's Tennis Association. That makes way more sense than hiring a casino guy. During his tenure, the conference expanded to include Utah and Colorado in 2011 and added a football championship game. Those additions helped secure a 12-year, $3 billion media rights deal with Fox and ESPN in 2011, set the standard for college sports at the time. Pretty sure the SEC also expanded to like 14 teams pretty much that same year, or it was the next year. But I want to say it was around that same time. And, oh my goodness, their media rights deal. Scott's tenure will largely be defined by the creation of the Pac-12 in 2012, or Pac-12 Network in 2012, which has been marred by distribution issues throughout its existence and contributed to a widening revenue gap between the conference and its Power 5 peers. While Pac-12 revenue has steadily risen in recent years, the conference distributed more than $32 million per school after the 2018-19 academic year. Its numbers lag behind the Big Ten, $55 million per school, and the SEC, $45 million per school. Interesting. Which partnered with Fox and ESPN, respectively. Big Ten with Fox and the SEC with ESPN. Although that's not counting the I bet you that's not counting the CBS money, which that's done. But under Scott's leadership, the conference remained a powerhouse in several sports, but its success in football and men's basketball was limited. No Pac-12 team won a national title in either sport, and just two, Oregon in 2017 and UCLA this year, reached the men's Final Four. Oof. Mike Polisky has resigned as Northwestern's athletic director Wednesday amid mounting criticism following his promotion last week. Polisky said in a statement that he is stepping down as AD and leaving the school after 11 years because current challenges will not allow me to effectively lead our department, and he does not want to be a distraction. He is one of 4 defendants along with the university in a sexual harassment lawsuit filed in January by former Northwestern cheerleader who said she was groped by drunken fans and alumni at school-sanctioned events, and administrators tried to cover up her complaints, according to the Chicago Tribune. Boy. President Morton Shapiro announced linguistics professor Robert Gundlach will serve as interim AD. Gundlach is Northwestern's faculty athletics representative to the NCAA and Big Ten. He joined Northwestern in 2010 after working for the Arena Football League's Chicago Rush and American Hockey League's Chicago Wolves. He worked closely with Phillips in branding and strategy and helped develop the Chicago's Big Ten team marketing campaign. Phillips had been the school's AD since 2008. I guess it's the guy who resigned. Through a period of success. Da, 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 da. He finished work at Northwestern in February. He was hired as the Atlantic Coast Conference commissioner in December. Okay, so that's where he went. So those are kind of the big main line headlines. Let's see. What do we got in terms of NFL news? Biggest roster holes. I don't care what they think the roster holes are, because I bet you they're wrong about a bunch of them. Let's see. Ravens Raiders on Monday Night Football as part of Week 1 slate. Oh, this ought to be good. So let's see. So I saw this last night. Apparently, Teddy Bridgewater has criticized how the Carolina Panthers practiced last season. The heck? Okay. Former Carolina Panthers quarterback Teddy Bridgewater on Wednesday questioned how the Panthers practiced in two critical areas that played a part in the organization moving on from him after the first year of his 3-year contract. I'll just say this for Joe Brady's growth, or I'll just say this, for Joe Brady's growth, they'll have to practice different things in different ways, Bridgewater said of Carolina's offensive coordinator on the All Things Covered CBS Sports podcast with Patrick Peterson and Bryant McFadden. One of the things we didn't do much of when I was there, we didn't practice 2-minute drills. We didn't practice red zone. We didn't practice on Fridays. But you walked through the red zone stuff, and then Saturday you came out and practiced red zone, but you got only 15 live reps. Okay. Yeah, but how often was Carolina really running 2-minute drills last season? Carolina's schedule was different last year under first-year coach Matt Rule, in that Friday was a walkthrough instead of a full practice, and Saturday was a full practice. McFadden noted that many teams devote an entire day of practice to red zone and 2-minute drills. Okay. Just because many teams do it doesn't mean that they're right or wrong for doing it. Speaking later Wednesday, Rule said he's happy with how his team handles the build-up to games. We have a process. We have a practice schedule, he said. I think we're pretty organized. We try to address all the situations. I'm not going to delve into specifics about our process. I feel really good about the way we practice. And if this goes back to how, or what he did at Baylor, Matt Rule rebuilt Baylor in a pretty short order. And he had a really great team at Temple. So he's a coach who knows what he's doing. Bridgewater traded to Denver before the 2021 NFL Draft after the Panthers acquired Sam Darnold from the New York Jets. Ranked 25th among qualified quarterbacks in the red zone with a total QBR of 41.7. He completed only 58.5% of his passes in the red zone compared with 69.1% overall. Yeah. I wonder what his career statistics in the red zone are. Bridgewater ranked 26th in 2-minute offense with a QBR of 62.6. He had 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in those situations. Bridgewater led all quarterbacks with 5 red zone turnovers. He also was 0-8 in games in which the Panthers had a chance to win or tie on their final possession. Okay. So they had 8. So they basically had 8. So like half of their games last year, they had a chance to win or tie on their final possession. Which, okay, so he's saying, so what Bridgewater is trying to say is, my weaknesses were because we didn't work on the things that I was weakest at last season. You can draw some correlation here, but it's also possible that he's just not good in those situations. It seems like he's trying to it's like this definitely seems like he's throwing the organization under the bus for his failures on the field, which could be warranted. Bridgewater admitted he could have done better. He also reminded listeners that he didn't have running back Christian McCaffrey for 13 games due to multiple injuries to the dual threat Pro Bowler, and didn't have a tight end target he could depend on in the red zone. I mean, so it's like, I could have done better, and not having Christian McCaffrey is a great point. Not having a reliable tight end, but I mean, throwing your teammates under the bus, yeah, you sound like a great leader who I would really be excited about being my quarterback for my next team. Tight end Ian Thomas and Chris Mannertz combined for 26 catches and 1 touchdown in 2020, leading Carolina to upgrade at the position in the draft and free agency. Well, Mannertz, he's on the Jaguars now, and he was mostly a blocking type tight end anyway. The Panthers began exploring options at quarterback soon after the 2020 season, which they finished 5-11. They offered Bridgewater the number 8 pick and a 5th rounder to the Detroit Lions for Matthew Stafford, who ended up being traded to the Los Angeles Rams. The whole deal with Carolina, it is what it is, said Bridgewater, speaking publicly for the first time since the trade. I told them once the season ended, I wear big boy drawers, and I understand the nature of this business, and it's a performance-based business. I could sit out here and say, okay, Christian got hurt. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. It doesn't matter. I look in the mirror and say, hey, you've got to tighten up. McFadden, a former NFL quarterback, followed with, I'll say what you won't say, and that was, you didn't get treated fairly. And see, they had him on to do this. And this is what's funny. Because you listen to what I just read. He brought up, now he didn't bring up their, it's like, let me see, let me just double check before I go on this. He complains about the way they practiced, or says they need to change how they practice. Let's see. He admitted he could have done better. And then he lists like these things that he didn't have. But then he goes to say, I could sit here and say, okay, Christian got hurt. We didn't have this, we didn't have that. It doesn't matter. I look in the mirror and say, hey, you've got to tighten up. But you just got done saying that you complained about how they practiced, or they didn't practice these things, and it turns out those were the 2 areas where you failed out worse than any other quarterback that year, and maybe there's some correlation there. And then you complain, or then you mentioned that you didn't have Christian McCaffrey for 13 games, and you said you didn't have a tight end you could rely on in the red zone. So you make all these excuses, but then you say, well, I can't make any excuses. Well, which is it then? Because to me, that's And then you've got McFadden, and it's not like McFadden was a great NFL player. You're saying it's like you didn't get treated fairly. People don't get treated fairly in the NFL all the time for different reasons. It just happens. McFadden noted that Bridgewater, 4-11 as Carolina's starter, passed for 3,733 yards, throwing 15 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. He then noted that Darnold with the Jets was 2-10, passed for 2,208 yards with 9 TDs and 11 interceptions, and a completion rate of 59.6%. Darnold also ranked 31st in 2-minute situations with a QBR of 51.8 and 33rd in red zone with a QBR of 10.0. Yep. And he had worse weapons and a worse offensive line than Teddy Bridgewater had. Like, well, let's just go down Bridgewater's weapons. DJ Moore is a former first-round pick who has had really good success in the NFL, and I think is going into year 4 in the league. Last offseason, they also signed Robbie Anderson away from the Jets, who was Sam Darnold's best, most consistent, and favorite target. Well, maybe you could say Jamison Crowder's more consistent when he's healthy. They also had Curtis Samuel, who had a breakout year, who was one of the most consistent. Actually, I think he had the most consistent hands in the NFL last season because his catch percentage was incredible last year. Now, and he was so good last year that the Washington football team, it's still going to take time. I've been doing better about that, but Washington signed Curtis Samuel to a 3-year, I believe it was $36 million contract in the offseason. Darnold's best receiver last year was Brashad Perriman, and he went back to his pre-Tampa Bay form, and I think he missed time with injuries. I mean, he had nothing around him. I mean, it's like McFadden can bring up numbers all he wants, but it also depends on who what you're around too. Darnold also had a far worse coaching staff. He had to deal with Adam Gase the last 2 years. The Panthers traded a 6th-rounder in 2020 as well as 2nd and 4th round picks in 2022 for Darnold, the 3rd pick in the 2018 draft. They also opted not to take a quarterback with the 8th pick. Yep, which was expected considering they traded for Sam Darnold. Rule has said repeatedly that he believes in Darnold. The Panthers exercised his 5th-year option. Darnold's contract, the 5th-year option in Darnold's contract on April 30th, guaranteeing the quarterback an $18.8 million salary in 2022. We brought Sam here for a reason, Rule said. We're excited to see what he can do. We're excited to give him an opportunity. We traded for him because we believe in his potential. Speaking Wednesday, Rule said he expects Bridgewater to have tremendous success with Denver and believes that Denver's staff will feel the same way about his former quarterback he does, or will feel about his former quarterback the way he does. I mean, and that's just being professional and nice, but you don't trade the guy if you think he's going to be if you didn't think he was an asset. Like if you thought he was a big asset to you. I just don't get it. Like that's just dumb. Now saying like, hey, he's a really good guy, really hard worker, I think the Denver staff will love him. That's one thing. But if you feel he can be replaced and upgraded upon. So I guess you're saying that Denver will feel the same way. That's what I'm reading there. Bridgewater, who overcame a career-threatening knee injury with the Vikings in their 2016 training camp, returned as a full-time starter with Carolina last season after signing a 3-year, $63 million deal, which was an overpay. The Panthers restructured Bridgewater's deal in order to trade him to the Broncos, agreeing to pay $7 million of the quarterback's $10 million bonus that was fully guaranteed. They also took on $17 million in dead money. Bridgewater said moving around a lot as a kid prepared him for everything he's going through now. I'm a pro, man, Bridgewater said. I could sit up here and throw all of that out there, but at the end of the day, that won't get me nowhere, man. I do love when people say or do that, like, I mean, I could say a lot, but I'm just going to deal with it after they've said a lot. That would be like me saying all this stuff about Watson and being like, but or all that stuff I said about Watson, but it really don't matter to me that much. I just have to move on, or I've just got to move on, or I've just moved on, like saying like, obviously I haven't because I just said all that stuff about whatever topic. I don't know. This is a guy taking shots out the door. It happens. It's like Bridgewater's not a special quarterback. He doesn't have the tools Darnold has. Darnold has incredible upside. Still. Let's see. NBA headlines. Nets signed Mike James for remainder of season. Who? Harden returns with 18 and win as Kyrie sits. Lakers raise title banner. NBA again breaks season record for threes per game. Not a surprise. See who this Mike James guy is. The Brooklyn Nets are keeping Mike James for the rest of the season. The Nets signed the guard to a contract Thursday after the expiration of his second 10-day deal. James has appeared in 11 games, including starting in Brooklyn's victory over San Antonio on Wednesday. He has averaged 7.1 points and 3.7 assists in 17.5 minutes per game. Solid bench production there. He signed his first 10-day deal April 23rd after spending the previous 2 seasons with CSKA Moscow. He has played most of his 9-year pro career in Europe. Okay. See, when I was like in middle school and high school, there was a guard named Mike James. I'm like, that dude's like ancient. I was about to say, I'm like, what? Let's see. This is interesting. The young role players who could change the NBA postseason. This is from Mike Schmitz. Mike Schmitz is one of my favorite draft analysts. He and Jonathan Gavoni are like the heads of Draft Express who got hired by ESPN. Ooh, they've got a best 25 under 25. Might look at that to end out the show. Michael Bridges, Phoenix's irreplaceable 3D wing. Yeah, Bridges has been awesome. He was one of my favorite players in I think it was the 2019 draft class that he was a part of. And he was a part of national championship winning team at Villanova, playing with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. Villanova was 103-13 while Bridges was there. Kind of looking for his stats here. During a recent film session with the 24-year-old wing, we broke down the keys to thriving in his current role. Running the floor hard, and he does that. He's got great size. He's 6'7". I believe he's got a 7'1" wingspan. I think he plays at like 225, 220. somewhere in there, somewhere between 220 230. He is second in the NBA, only behind Ben Simmons when it comes to total offense. 27% of Bridges' total offense comes in the open floor, second in the NBA, behind only Ben Simmons, because that's basically all Ben Simmons can do. And ahead of transition juggernauts Russell Westbrook and Giannis Antetokounmpo. His volume is probably lower than those guys, but he is great in transition. Bridges either runs wide to give Chris Paul a drop-off option for a layup, or sprints to the corner for a kick-out three. Yeah, and out of those 4 players listed, he is easily the best shooter, by far. Even when it doesn't result in a bucket from himself. And that's true. His energetic rim runs often force retreating defenses to reset, opening up looks for his teammates. Of course, corner threes. He's a great three-point shooter. Bridges has hosted the 3rd most corner threes in the NBA at 197, behind only Danny Green and Bojan Bogdanovic. He ranks 17th among 34 high-volume shooters in effective field goal percentage, and his ability to knock down open corner threes will be a key factor. And that's true. And you're sitting here like, oh, so he's middle of the road of these high-volume shooters. But most high-volume shooters in the NBA are the best of the best shooters. And the ones at the very bottom of that list are sometimes guys who just, well, historically, Russell Westbrook. Worst high-volume three-point shooter, I think, ever. Quick decisions, and he's a quick decision maker. It comes back to his time in Villanova. He either shoots, drives, or passes pretty much instantaneously. He makes that decision. He'll move off the ball. Yep, that's true. And then he's a great defensive player. He's a top shelf defensive player. Then you got Bruce Brown. So tomorrow I might bring up Zach Lowe's Luke Walton All-Stars. It's a great article every year. Bruce Brown is the captain of that team this year. Brooklyn's point center. Few young players have reinvented themselves quite like Brown has after being drafted 42 overall as a combo guard by the Detroit Pistons. Despite standing just 6'5", 202 pounds, Brown has terrorized opposing defenses as a pick-and-roll dive man this season, and this is absolutely true. He turns James Harden's pocket passes into some of the most efficient offense in the NBA, earning a place as the captain of Zach Lowe's Luke Walton All-Stars. I call it the point center, Brown says, of his new position with the Nets during our recent ESPN film session. He struggled to find his rhythm from beyond the arc earlier this season, shooting just 17.4% from three-point range through February 18th, which that's lower than his career average. He started searching for other ways to add value off the ball, predominantly as a diver in Harden pick and rolls, with the opponent's weakest defender generally on Brown. The 24-year-old turned himself into a screener to generate mismatches for Harden on switches. If the defense blitzed or trapped the former MVP, Brown served as a decision maker in 4-on-3 situations, similar to the role Draymond Green has often played as safety valve for Steph Curry. I'll catch the ball. I'll catch it in the pocket, and I'm really good finishing around the rim. I'll either finish or make the right read. And he is really good at finishing around the rim, and he's really good at floaters too. Among the 139 players who have set at least 275 direct screens this season, Brown ranks 11th, generating 1.093 points per possession, according to Second Spectrum data. On the 146 screens Brown set with Harden as the ball handler, the Nets scored 1.207 points per possession. That's ridiculous, which would rank first in the NBA. Typically, the guys you're seeing who fit the profile for elite, like they create a bunch of points per possession off of screens. You're looking at guys like Rudy Gobert who destroy people and are so long that when they're going to the basket, they can just catch lobs higher than most people and finish over the top of even most centers. You've got explosive guys like Clint Capella or a younger DeAndre Jordan who set strong screens and can really get up off the ground with great length. Or guys who are just offensive weapons like your Domantas Sabonis and Nikola Vucevic's who have the ability to pop for jumpers, roll hard to the rim, make plays for others on the roll, but they're all big guys. And then you got Bruce Brown. Brown pinpointed a March 1st overtime win against San Antonio Spurs as the model for how effective the Harden-Brown pick and roll can be at producing multiple options for success. And that's true. In that game, he scored a season-high 23 points on 13 shots in 34 minutes. I think I hit Kyrie in the corner, DJ on a lob, and then I hit a floater to seal the game. And that's the other thing. These roles allow for a big man like DeAndre Jordan to even be on the floor. And because of Brown getting that pocket pass and potentially sucking DeAndre Jordan's defender or far enough away from him to throw a lob that DJ can just go up and yam down. While he's been most in sync with Harden, Brown is also effective screening for Kyrie Irving, generating 1.1 points per possession on 81 direct screens. That's still really freaking good. So yeah, Bruce Brown plays really good defense as well. In the 5 games they played together, Brown has taken advantage of teams doubling Durant, finding gaps in the defense, thanks to his feel and energy as a cutter. He's only played 5 games with Durant. That's also incredible. It's like a tough-minded defender. That's been his identity since he entered the NBA, and a big reason he has started 58 games that he started 58 games as a rookie in Detroit. Brown is an agitator defensively, picking up Steph Curry 94 feet, staying attached to C.J. McCollum, taking away Paul George's airspace in pick and roll, and battling on switches. He's earned the respect of his peers with the way he has reinvented his game. All right, let's see. Landry Shamet, pick and pop shooter. While Brown gives Harden and co. a dynamic roller who can dissect 4-on-3s or slip out of switches, Shamet gives head coach Steve Nash a different dimension as a screener with his shot-making ability. And quick release. Starter Joe Harris is Brooklyn's most dangerous pick-and-pop screener, setting 5.4 per game while shooting a remarkable 47% from distance. But Shamet gives Brooklyn's offense that same dimension when Harris is on the bench. He ranks in the top 35 in the NBA, averaging 1.09 points per possession on direct screens. That's incredible. And I couldn't believe that Shamet got that the Clippers traded Shamet in the offseason. Luke Kennard has played or hasn't consistently played a major role since they brought him in and then gave him that, I think it was like a $15 million a year extension, or 16, something like that. I think it's incredible. And Shemet plays okay defense. He's not incredible, but I mean, and he's a pretty good decision maker with the ball in his hands. So, because he was a former he played point guard basically at Wichita State. Other notable under 25 contributors on contenders. Dante DiVincenzo. They have him listed as an energy guard. After not playing in the postseason as a rookie, DiVincenzo came off the bench 9 times and started Game 5 of the second round in the playoffs in place of an injured Giannis Antetokounmpo last year. This year, he's been a fixture in Milwaukee's starting lineup, providing 1.05 points per game and shooting a career-best 37.8% from beyond the arc, which is this is exactly the kind of player I expected him to be. And I think it has benefited the Bucks that they did not trade for get that trade for Bogdan Bogdanović and get rid of DiVincenzo. Talen Horton-Tucker, shot creator for the Lakers, including the playoffs. Horton-Tucker played just 8 games a season ago, but has provided the Lakers with a spark off the bench this season. Still only 20 years old, Horton-Tucker has 24 games of double-digit scoring off the bench this season, second among Lakers reserves. Then you got Shake Milton of the Sixers, skilled wing, after being pressed into a starting point guard role with Simmons out last season. Milton is back in a familiar spot coming off the bench and playing off the ball. He's averaging career highs in points, 12.9, and assists, 3.0. And he was kind of like a big point guard, like combo guard type coming out of SMU. Because, I mean, dude's 6'7". But he's a really nice, like, role player. Another 76ers player, Matisse Thybulle, whom people kept trying to put in trades to get the Sixers Kyle Lowry, and it was stupid. Defensive game changer. And he is a crazy good defender. .6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. He's the only player in the NBA with a steal percentage and block percentage over 3.5%, which people were super skeptical of him coming out of college that he'd be able to keep up his defense. His last season at Washington, it was like his steal and block percentages, like he was like an elite shot blocker or like a great shot blocker and the best like in the country at getting steals. Well, it's continued at the NBA level. I used to have his like senior year steal blocks numbers, but I want to say he almost like combined. He was averaging like somewhere between like 5 and 6 steals and blocks combined a game over a full college season. Terrence Mann, slash and pass defender. Mann, who earned the nickname Stat Stuffer at Florida State, is doing just that in a limited role for the Clippers. Though the volume is low, Mann is shooting 50% from the floor, 42% from three-point range, and 83% from the line. And he plays solid defense. More than solid defense. And apparently Kennard has bounced back from, because I haven't really checked in on him since like the All-Star break, but he wasn't doing great early in the season. Acquired by the Clippers in a deal that sent Shamet to Brooklyn, Kennard has rewarded LA by shooting 46.4% from three-point range, 5th in the NBA behind only Joe Harris, Marcus Morris Sr., who is on his team, and Kevin Durant and Bobby Portis, which Bobby Portis is shooting ridiculous this season. And is one of the most important bench players in the league. playing for the Bucks. Or should I say role players in the league. Kennard's only playoff experience came in 2019 when he shot 60% from 3 in the Pistons' 4-game first-round loss to the Bucks. So good to see Kennard has bounced back, because I believed in Kennard, but for the first half of the season, he was really, there was a period of time where he was pretty much borderline out of the Clippers rotation. Let's see, let's do this. What time is it? Yeah, it's getting close to me ending the show, so let's see what this is. I wonder if this was like that older article they did. Yeah, this is from April 6th. I remember when this came out. Luka, Zion, LaMelo already, but I agree. Mitchell, Tatum. This is a pretty interesting list for sure. I think Michael Porter Jr., if they had waited a month to do this, he'd be easily top 10. My man Morant at 15. I agree with him being ahead of Trae Young too. He's a better all-around player. Yes, Young is a much better shooter. Well, can be a much better shooter. His accuracy has been better this year than it was last year. But Morant is a better defender, and he's not a great defender, and he's still way ahead of Trae Young. I just think he's a better winning player than Young. He's much better off the ball. Let's see, Sabonis might be too low. And I'm going to say this right now. Anthony Edwards shouldn't even be on this top 25 list yet. Yes, he's had some explosive plays and some explosive scoring nights, but he hadn't earned that yet. Like, Tyrese Halliburton has been a much better player. And impacted winning far more. Like, all of these guys that are after him should be ahead of him. Of course, they had 3 guys do ballots. So you had like Bobby Marks, and he had Michael Porter Jr. like 3rd. And then he had R.J. Barrett. And R.J. Barrett should be on this list ahead of Anthony Edwards with the improvements he's made. So a couple guys that he had on there were Barrett and Murray. He did not have Jarrett Allen on his list. He did not have... someone down at the bottom here. He did not have Lonzo Ball on his list. Let's see. Kevin Pelton, his was a little more similar to the actual final list. Except he had Jamal Murray above Devin Booker. And I actually don't think that's necessarily crazy. Let's see who he had. Now, he had OG Anunoby at 21. Quickly already at 24, and he had Keldon Johnson at 25. Actually, out of all those, like, I don't know if Quickly belongs on this list, but I like him. Same with Keldon Johnson. Kind of agree with Anunoby. He didn't have Anthony Edwards up there. He had Michael Porter Jr. down at 18. He didn't have Ayton on his list, and he didn't have... Who's the other guy that ended up making it that he didn't have? He didn't have Colin Sexton on his list. I actually think Quickly has a huge upside, but I think it's a little early to put him in the top 25, under 25. Anunoby's an elite defender and a great, like, secondary option on offense. Like, he's a pretty good spot-up shooter. He can attack closeouts, and he's shown a lot of growth offensively this year. I like him a lot. And Keldon Johnson, if he continues developing the way he's developed this season, that dude is going to be a multi-positional, like, role-playing force. I love Johnson. I kind of respect putting him up there. And then we got Schmitz here. So Schmitz and Pelton had far more similar lists than Marks, because they both had Morant at 12. Marks had him down at 19. But Schmitz had Edwards in his top 25. The only difference for him, like the only guy he had in his top 25 that didn't make the aggregate top 25 between the three, was he had R.J. Barrett, and he didn't have... Who did he not have? So there's Allen, Sexton, Ayton, Ball. I don't think he had John Collins on his. I don't think I saw John Collins. Yep, he didn't have John Collins, and I respect that. I think John Collins is a little overrated. But yeah, I do think those are some good lists of players, kind of in that range. Here's some guys that aged out of that list. You have Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Zach LaVine, and Kristaps Porzingis have all turned 25. Two guys who were on this and dropped out were Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jonathan Isaac because of injuries. Because those are two names that, like, it's like if it wasn't for the injuries, they'd be on this list. So, anyway, I guess I'll end the show there today. Thank you all for tuning in, whether it was live or for the recording. Appreciate you guys. I hope y'all have a great Thursday evening. I will be back tomorrow. We'll probably talk about what the biggest roster holes are for different NFL teams. Might talk about some available free agents that are still on the market that could help some of these teams. Probably some names you'd be kind of a little surprised to see on the market still at this point. And then maybe we'll hit up ESPN's future power rankings, because I think they just released like a new future power rankings for the NBA. So it's not necessarily based on just this year, but I think it's usually like a 3-year outlook. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, please hit the like button, subscribe. Don't want to miss anything. Also hit the bell, turn notifications to all. That way you never miss when I go live or if I start uploading videos. And, and leave a comment. I read the comments. I like to hear what y'all have to say. So with that being said, I will catch y'all tomorrow. Thank you, and later.